So, um, what if a lot of what we've been told about fitness, especially that whole thing with heart rate zones,
Hmm.
what if it's fundamentally flawed? Like, really flawed. Imagine an entire industry, we're talking multi-trillion dollars, built on what basically turns out to be, well, an arbitrary guess from back in the 70s. Today, we're diving deep into some really revolutionary insights. We're drawing directly from the experiences and teachings of this fascinating guy, sometimes called the heart rate heretic, and also some thoughts from his upcoming book, Invisible Injuries. This deep dive, it might just make you rethink, well, everything you thought you knew about movement and, well-being.
Yeah, our mission here really is to unpack how this whole industry got built on what one of the original researchers just flat out called a bad guess.
Yeah.
It's pretty startling. We'll explore the surprising clarity that kind of pops up when you strip away all the marketing hype and the, let's be honest, pseudoscience. And we want to reveal a more authentic, sustainable path to health and movement, something that's maybe surprisingly been hiding in plain sight all along.
Okay, let's start with something you hear everywhere, like everywhere, something many of us listening are probably doing right now. Zone 2 training. It's pushed as the absolute holy grail in fitness. Seriously, open any fitness app, talk to almost any trainer,
Oh, yeah.
and they'll tell you it's the key. Fat burning, mitochondrial stuff, longevity, heart health, all of it. Millions of people are just slavishly following these rules, checking their watches constantly
Constantly.
to hit these optimal percentages. It's like, gospel for so many.
Right. And here's the really shocking thing about the foundation, the bedrock of all those zones, that famous 220 minus age formula, the one that underpins this entire system.
Yeah.
It was basically an arbitrary rough guess from the 1970s. No rigorous science behind it at that point. When researchers actually dug into where it came from, they found it was literally just a researcher making an estimation, a back of the envelope kind of thing. And the original researcher himself, he concluded, and this is a direct quote, "It was not a formula, it was a bad guess."
Wow. A bad guess. Just think about the implications of that. Just huge implications. If the very foundation is that shaky, what does that mean for someone who's maybe spent hundreds or even thousands on a watch, an app, a coach, all calibrated to these numbers? Are they just like training completely in the dark? We're talking about this entire trillion-dollar industry, trackers, apps, certifications, coaching, the whole lot.
Yep.
All based on this single flawed formula. It means the numbers you're seeing, the zones you're trying so hard to hit, they could be off by 40 beats per minute, maybe even more.
Oh, easily.
That's not a small error. That's monumental.
And it actually gets worse, believe it or not, when you factor in just how much individual human variation there is. It's massive. Maximum heart rate, it varies wildly, sometimes by a staggering 35 to 110 beats per minute, even among people who are the exact same age.
No way. 110 beats.
Yeah. So, for instance, research found a 57-year-old runner whose measured max heart rate was 190, but the formula, it would tell them 163. That's 27 beats off. Or another one, a 73-year-old with an actual max of 186. The formula suggests 147. That's, 39 beats off? Astonishingly inaccurate.
It really does boggle the mind. How can something so widely used be so off? But couldn't someone argue that, even an imperfect guide is maybe better than no guide at all, especially for the average person just trying to get healthier? Maybe people think, okay, the formula is bad, but there are ways to get a more precise reading, like laboratory testing. Is that the answer?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But even if you try to sidestep the bad formulas and go for what's often called the gold standard lab testing for your max heart rate, you hit another fundamental wall. It's actually nearly impossible to achieve your true maximal effort in a controlled lab setting. Think about it. Research with elite NCAA runners, these are top athletes, found their heart rates were consistently 13 or more beats higher in actual races compared to what they could hit in the lab. Safety rules, the artificial environment, it just prevents people from really, truly maxing out.
Okay. And it sounds like there's a psychological thing too, right? Like your brain kind of holds you back in that sort of setting.
Exactly. There's this powerful psychological barrier. Your body has built-in self-preservation instincts. It doesn't want you to push to your absolute physiological limit, especially not when you're hooked up to machines and people are watching you. To hit a true physiological max heart rate often requires, extraordinary motivation, like the adrenaline of intense competition or maybe even a survival situation. It's just not something a lab can reliably replicate.
Okay, so if we sort of connect the dots here,
Yeah.
we've got the formula being way off, maybe 40 plus beats.
Right.
Then the lab tests underestimate things by maybe 10, 15 beats.
At least, yeah.
Plus the psychological barriers, plus just normal individual variation, which you said can be huge.
And even day-to-day fluctuations, based on sleep, stress.
Right. So all these errors just pile up, they compound,
They absolutely do.
which means your precise zone calculation could be off by, what, 50 beats per minute? More?
Easily 50 bits, yeah. It's like trying to navigate with a compass that's not just wrong by 50 degrees, but also kind of wobbles around randomly depending on the day. It's effectively useless for precision.
So,
Yeah.
given how fundamentally unreliable this core measurement seems to be, what does that really mean for how we should approach our health, our
Yeah.
fitness? I mean, it makes you question everything, doesn't it?
It really does. And what's fascinating, truly fascinating, is the stark contrast you see. You look at the fitness industry's obsession with these precise zone percentages, and then you look at how actual medical professionals treat real heart patients in cardiac rehab programs.
Okay. How do they do it?
It's refreshingly simple, practical stuff. They might use something like resting heart rate plus 20 beats or RPE scales, rate of perceived exertion, just asking how hard does this feel? Scale of 1 to 10. They use the talk test. Can you comfortably hold a conversation? They monitor symptoms. It's all very individualized assessment.
What's missing?
Exactly. What's completely missing is any mention of hitting precise zone percentages based on some theoretical maximum heart rate. They just don't use it.
And speaking of medical insights, you mentioned something earlier, peripheral heart action, PHA. What's that about?
Yes, PHA. It's a really interesting concept. It highlights that blood flow to your extremities, your periphery, your arms and legs, is just as critical as what your central heart muscle is doing. And medical research actually shows that simply alternating between upper body and lower body exercises, doing things that force blood to circulate throughout the whole body, provides superior cardiovascular benefits compared to just staying in one steady state zone.
Why is that?
Because you're making the heart work harder to pump blood between different large muscle groups. You're challenging the whole circulatory system, making it more efficient, more adaptable.
So it sounds like there's this kind of professional irony here.
Totally. It's a huge irony. The doctors, the ones actually treating serious heart disease, they're using these sensible, individualized common sense approaches, very practical.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the fitness industry, which is mostly dealing with healthy people, is pushing this complex, often inaccurate zone mythology.
It really seems like, well, the people who genuinely understand hearts rely on common sense, while the fitness industry relies more on marketing.
That sums it up pretty well, unfortunately.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Consider this really sobering fact. Cardiovascular disease. It's basically a circulation problem, right?
Fundamentally, yes. Getting blood where it needs to go.
And it's the leading cause of death globally. So it makes you wonder, why does the fitness industry promote so much static stuff? Static holds, floor-based positions you see in a lot of traditional yoga or Pilates, isolated movements. These things seem to offer pretty minimal circulatory benefit, don't they?
That's what we might call the floor-based fallacy.
Yeah.
It's a great point. Think about trying to get water through a garden hose that's lying flat or maybe has a kink in it.
Right, it doesn't flow well.
Exactly. Spending long periods lying horizontally or holding completely static positions actually works against what your circulation needs. These positions lack dynamic circulatory challenge. They minimize the enhancement of blood flow. What circulation really thrives on is dynamic movement between positions, getting up and down using varied planes of motion, rhythmic flowing patterns, and crucially, that upper-lower body alternation we talked about that engages different circulatory pathways, uses muscle pumps all over the body.
And you see this problem magnified in so many typical gym environments.
Oh, absolutely.
All those seated machines. They often prioritize these static positions, maybe supposedly for safety, but they drastically cut down the circulatory demand. Even when the stated goal is cardiovascular fitness, it feels like a real disconnect.
It is a huge disconnect, which brings us back actually to the 74-year-old cyclist we've been mentioning, Terence Hughes. He's not just a cyclist. In his other life, he's a really profound movement educator. And get this, at the same fitness facility where everyone knows him as this wise old cyclist, he teaches classes that they market as Pilates.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. What he actually teaches, it bears almost no resemblance to traditional Pilates. He says the facility knows even less about effective movement than their cat, so they just slap on a familiar label to fill the classes, even though his content is revolutionary.
Huh. Okay, so what does he teach then? How does he explain it?
Well, he describes having this kind of qualification process with new students. He has to basically say, look, what I actually teach is rhythmical, cross-lateral exercises and dynamic circulatory enhancement, things that really get the blood moving in smart ways.
Cross-lateral, like coordinating
Yeah.
opposite arm and leg.
Exactly, things that integrate the body. He uses this great analogy. He says his class is a bit like jazz. Some get it, some never will.
I like that.
Yeah. So what his students are really getting isn't traditional Pilates holds. It's genuine movement education, stuff that enhances circulation, builds rhythm and coordination, and functionally prepares them for real life, not just for holding a pose on a mat. Now, while we're talking about misleading metrics, let's quickly touch on another big one, BMI, body mass index.
Ah, yes, BMI. Everyone knows that one.
Right. And it's another one of these widely used metrics that honestly tells us very little about actual health or body composition. It originated way back in the 1830s from a Belgian statistician. And guess what? He was studying Belgian men, not diverse populations, not women, certainly not athletes.
So it's based on a very narrow sample from nearly 200 years ago.
Pretty much. And as a result, it routinely misclassifies muscular athletes, people who are incredibly fit as overweight or even obese just because muscle is dense.
Which leads us to what the real goal should probably be for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't just weight loss, but body recomposition.
Exactly. Body recomp. Simultaneously losing fat and gaining muscle.
And is that actually possible? You hear conflicting things.
Oh, absolutely possible. Research definitively confirms it. It's not just for beginners either. It's possible even for people who already do resistance training. It should be the standard approach for many. But this obsession we have with just the number on the scale, or the BMI category, it completely blinds people to this true success.
Right. You could theoretically lose 15 pounds of fat and gain 15 pounds of muscle.
And the scale wouldn't budge. But you'd be massively healthier, stronger, look totally different. Yet the numbers, the BMI, might tell you nothing's changed. It's madness. You know, the deeper tragedy, I think, behind all these flawed metrics and frankly, ineffective exercise fads, it's the systematic loss of connection people have with their own bodies. We've stopped moving instinctively. People don't explore their natural ranges of motion anymore. They've lost the ability to feel rhythm or, actual joy in movement. Some people can't even comfortably touch their own pulse anymore.
Wow.
It's like we've forgotten how to actually inhabit our own skin.
And technology plays a huge role here, doesn't it? This is a significant trap of our modern world, maybe.
Right.
All this tracking tech, the watches, the apps,
Mm-hmm.
they promise to make us more in tune with ourselves.
That was the promise, yeah.
But it seems like maybe they've done the exact opposite.
Mhm.
We've just outsourced our body awareness to these devices.
Mm-hmm.
We don't trust our own intuition anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Movement becomes data entry instead of a lived, felt experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten so weird that people genuinely struggle to tell you how tired they are or how hard they're working without looking at their watch first.
Mm-hmm.
That really makes you wonder, doesn't it? We've all seen people constantly checking their stats mid-workout, almost forgetting the feeling of the movement itself.
And there's even a parallel happening in the medical world. It's not just fitness. Many doctors and healthcare professionals have kind of fallen into this trap too. I mean, when was the last time a doctor manually took your pulse for a full minute? Or really listened with a stethoscope, not just a quick check?
Good point. It's usually the tough machine now.
Right. Increasingly, they rely on digital readouts, computer screens, the actual hands-on human assessment skills. They seem to be fading, slowly being replaced by just data points on a screen.
This really brings us back beautifully to Terence Hughes, our 74-year-old cyclist, and his whole philosophy. It's so different. After a long 60-mile ride, while maybe younger riders are obsessing over their recovery scores and metrics, he just says something profound. He says, what I can do and what I'm prepared to do is different. My longevity probably depends on it. The race I'm in is a different one. Speed doesn't equal health. And then he adds, all these riders will never be close to pro standards, so enjoy yourselves.
I love that last bit. Enjoy yourselves. And it points to his philosophy of sustainable heart rate. It's not about punishment. On his long rides, he builds up to a heart rate he knows he can sustain comfortably. He avoids getting breathless. He's managing his heart, not punishing it based on some external number. And that's his different race revelation right there. He contrasts the short-term comparison-driven race that maybe others are in, chasing metrics, comparing to others, hitting external standards with his race. His is the long-term pursuit of health, yes, but also joy and quality of life. It's a really powerful distinction.
And then there's his whole approach to recovery, which is also totally counterculture. After these big 60-mile rides, this heretic, He doesn't do what most cyclists do, which is a slow recovery ride the next day.
Right, more cycling.
Instead, he does something completely different. He uses half-filled water bottles, apparently, for these flowing spiral and diagonal arm patterns. He practices capoeira ginga.
Which is that amazing rhythmic sort of flowing bass movement from Brazilian martial arts. Very cool.
Yeah, and he incorporates gentle isometric holds, light stretching. Yeah. And often does all this to Cuban or Brazilian music.
See, this is a direct challenge to what you might call the recovery ride madness that's so common in endurance sports. The logic is flawed, isn't it? I'm tired and sore from cycling hours yesterday, so today I'll cycle some more, just slower.
Yeah, when you put it like that.
His approach shows a really deep, intuitive understanding of peripheral circulation. He's addressing the whole body's needs, the stuff that cycling neglects. Cycling is great, but it's very fixed position, lower body dominant. He's bringing in upper body circulation, movement in multiple planes, activating different muscles, things the cycling didn't touch.
And the music. His use of Cuban music, you said, isn't just because he likes it. There's more to it.
Absolutely. It's not just whimsical. Music, rhythm, it naturally helps synchronize our physiological systems. Heart rate, breathing. These traditional rhythms, like Cuban or Brazilian ones, they carry a kind of cultural wisdom about movement and pacing. They also tend to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system through pleasure and flow, and that provides truly sustainable motivation. He even notes that Cuban polyrhythms, with their complex layers, offer far superior pace regulation than any heart rate monitor ever could. It's about finding your rhythm, connecting with the music, connecting with your body.
Wow. So really, what does this all add up to? It just seems like Terence Hughes has figured out this radically different, maybe much healthier way to live and move that flies in the face of so many modern fitness trends.
It certainly seems that way. And, amidst all this debunking of heart rate zone mythology, there's one legitimate, scientifically valid application of heart rate monitoring.
Okay.
Heart rate variability, HRV.
Ah, HRV. I've heard of that. How is it different?
It's totally different in its application. HRV actually tracks genuine physiological recovery. It can predict overtraining, sometimes weeks in advance. It can even detect illness before you feel symptoms. There were studies showing HRV changes flagged COVID-19 up to 7 days before symptoms appeared. It monitors your cumulative stress load. Crucially, it's not about hitting some arbitrary target number.
Right. So the key insight that separates HRV from the zone mythology is it's about trends over targets.
Exactly. Trends over targets. You track your own individual baseline, your normal range, and then you look for meaningful deviations from that. You use it as an early warning system, an insight into how your body is actually coping, not trying to force it into some predefined, likely inaccurate zone.
Makes sense.
And even simple resting heart rate tracking can work similarly. Those Stanford studies using smartwatches, they detected COVID by seeing patterns of elevated resting heart rate, another trend deviation. It's about listening to your body's signals, not just staring at a workout number. It's also worth briefly mentioning something Terence Hughes calls the assimilation factor. It's about how your body actually takes in and uses everything, nutrients, rest, the benefits of exercise. It's not a static process. Your ability to absorb nutrients, for example, changes based on stress levels, timing, even medications you might be taking. Alcohol is a big one. It systematically interferes with nutrient absorption. And similarly, how your body assimilates the benefits of exercise isn't always the same. Timing matters. Exercising before breakfast, for instance, has been shown to significantly increase 24-hour fat oxidation. Even short bursts of high-intensity training can dramatically improve your body's fat-burning capacity pretty quickly. It's a complex, dynamic system. A single number, like a heart rate zone, just can't capture all that complexity.
And you mentioned the talk test earlier as something used in cardiac rehab. But even that has its limits, right?
Yeah, it's worth noting that while it's often touted as simple and effective, the talk test isn't a perfect universal indicator either. How easily someone can talk depends on their individual breathing patterns, maybe anxiety levels, certain medications they might be on, even air quality or altitude.
So like the heart rate zones, it's trying to apply a kind of universal standard to something that's actually very individual, which can be misleading for some people.
Precisely. It's a useful guideline for some, but not a foolproof measure for everyone. Now, Terence Hughes, given his background, has worked extensively with cardiac patients over the years, and he consistently observes something quite telling, even when he advises medical professionals looking after stroke or heart attack patients, suggesting they incorporate non-cycling activities, things that are weight-bearing, use varied movements to improve overall circulation. That advice is routinely ignored.
Really? Why?
Well, it seems they often stick to more conventional, sometimes very sport-specific rehab protocols, maybe just walking or stationary cycling.
So that reveals a kind of maybe medical and cycling bias, a narrow focus.
You could call it that. Professionals often seem narrowly focused on either the major cardiac event itself or on regaining very specific fitness markers like walking distance or cycling power. They sometimes miss the bigger physiological picture, the importance of systemic circulation, whole body muscle health, functional movement patterns. They equate cardiovascular fitness solely with endurance sport fitness, which, as we've discussed, just isn't the full story. And this leads us to why his kind of wisdom, his approach, is so often ignored, as he puts it. It fundamentally threatens some really powerful economic and psychological forces out there.
How so?
Well, think about it. Technology companies can't really monetize listen to your body, can they? The fitness industry is largely built on selling optimization products, trackers, supplements, rigid programs. Coaching certifications are often based on teaching those specific rigid protocols. And social media, it thrives on metrics, data visualization, sharing your numbers. What would people post about their workouts if there were no numbers to chase or compare?
And there's probably significant cognitive dissonance for individuals too, right?
Yeah. Huge cognitive dissonance. People have invested so much money, time, and belief into their devices, their methods, their optimization goals, that they find it really hard to accept, let alone embrace, beneficial exercise that isn't easily quantified or doesn't fit the mold. They dismiss it.
And maybe there's an age bias too, dismissing the wisdom of someone older just because it doesn't come from an app.
That definitely plays a role. Older adults often embody decades of movement experience and intuitive wisdom, but it gets dismissed because it doesn't fit the latest shiny algorithm or tech trend. And then there's that practical problem we touched on earlier, the facility marketing issue. Even when someone like Terence Hughes is teaching truly revolutionary movement education, the places he teaches often mislabel it. They use familiar names like Pilates because they prioritize recognizable brands over accurately describing content that genuinely serves human physiology better. It's driven by marketing needs, not necessarily what's best for people's health.
Wow. All of this really makes you pause and think about movement itself, like movement as a celebration versus movement as optimization. What movement maybe used to be for humans, celebratory, exploratory, social, maybe even meditative, seems to have largely become transactional, data-driven, anxious, isolated, and often just joyless. We seem to be losing the very essence of why we move in the first place.
Absolutely. And that's why Terence Hughes' use of Cuban music, as we discussed, isn't just a quirky detail. It's about reclaiming something fundamental. It provides natural rhythm regulation. It taps into cultural wisdom about movement and flow. It activates the parasympathetic system through pleasure, which is key for recovery and well-being. And it offers motivation that's actually sustainable because it feels good. It really presents a choice, doesn't it? Rhythm versus zones. Are you going to trust deep cultural wisdom and your own body's innate sense of flow? Or are you going to keep trusting flawed algorithms and arbitrary external targets?
It really feels like it boils down to choosing between two potential futures for how we relate to movement and our bodies. On one hand, there's maybe the cyborg path, where humans become increasingly dependent on devices, maybe disconnected from inner sensations like joy or fatigue, able to recite their VO2 maps, but maybe unable to feel when they're genuinely tired or just need rest. Or there's the wisdom path, which is about trusting your body's signals again, moving for the inherent pleasure of it, playing the long game of health and sustainability, embracing variety, and maybe listening to music, listening to cultural wisdom, listening to yourself.
And so we circle back to Terence Hughes' simple yet incredibly profound truth, that quote again. What I can do and what I'm prepared to do is different. My longevity probably depends on it. The race I'm in is a different one. Speed doesn't equal health. All these riders will never be close to pro standards, so enjoy yourselves.
You hear that? Choose your race. Choose your health. Choose your joy. That's the core message, isn't it? Devices, algorithms, formulas. They simply cannot make these fundamental choices for you. Terence Hughes, he's definitely creating a storm with this thinking. But maybe, just maybe, it's about time these things were said loud and clear. Perhaps there has never been a better time for you, listening right now, to seek out the science for yourself.
Because the revolution, really, It starts with a cycle step, a step away from the screen, away from the constant data feed, and back towards authentic, intuitive, human movement. We really encourage you to explore the insights from Terence Hughes' work further. His upcoming book, Invisible Injuries, delves even deeper into these ideas. And you can find more information and resources at www.sambaprotocol.com.
He challenges you, essentially, to prove him wrong, and maybe we challenge you too. Consider what this deep dive means for your own movement, your own well-being. Don't just take our word for it, or his. Go seek the science for yourself. Find what truly works for you.